Now, the mayor of Accra, Mohammed Ejei-Sowa, in partnership with the Ghana Police Service, has Wednesday deployed a task force officers, police officers and sanitary inspectors to enforce sanitation compliance on the streets of Accra. The mayor in his speech advised Ghanaians to stop indiscriminate waste disposal.
The task force in groups of 10 are deployed in pickups to patrol the streets of Accra. The mayor says the move is part of efforts to fight sanitation in the capital. The mayor advised Ghanaians to be cautious of their attitudes towards indiscriminate dumping of rubbish in unapproved areas, as that violates bylaws.
We have done so well in the area of education, but without enforcement, it appears people will not change their attitude.
The task force team of 40 men, including police officers and sanitation inspectors, are expected to patrol the streets of Accra metropolis 24 hours.
This is a combined force of our Metro Guards, the police administration, as well as our environmental health officers who are mandated and know and are also acquainted with the law to be able to do this work. We want to do this work every day, and we are doing it day and night.
For Joy News, Diana Amankwa reporting.
And still on sanitation, the Tourism Ministry has warned that henceforth it will name and shame persons who openly defecate at the country's tourist sites. Sector Minister Catherine Afeku, who announced this when she visited the Central Region Wednesday, expressed worry at the rate of open defecation at the region's tourist sites. Her visit comes at the back of a Joy News report highlighting how residents of Cape Coast defecate at the Elmina and Cape Coast castles, much to the unhappiness of some foreign tourists. Here are excerpts of that report.
Welcome to the Cape Coast Castle. It was built in 1653 by the Swedes. The historical monument harbors horrific tales of the transatlantic slave trade. The castle has been marked as a World Heritage Site and receives thousands of tourists yearly. Many African Americans make emotional journeys here to retrace their ancestry. Last year, a little over 60,000 tourists visited the castle and were probably greeted with this. It is unpleasant watching people hunker down, easing themselves. Many residents around the Cape Coast Castle do it without any shame. They confront us on why we're filming them and then try to hide from our camera to do their own thing. Many brave the strong tides just to ease themselves when a public toilet is just 150 meters away. It's shocking to note that many of the patrons of this place do not use toilet rolls. Children join in and later play where they defecated. Tourists who throng the place are shocked. Some vowed never to even walk in Ghana's beach waters again.
It's concerning. I had heard about it before coming to Ghana, actually, that it is a problem on public beaches and public places. I think that kind of a behavior is unacceptable, and it's really off-putting. I wouldn't go swimming or bathing on the beach.
The government have to be more active, have to promote, have to incentive the people to take care of the nature, take care of the monuments they have.
I really like swimming, I really like the beach, and I just never go to the beach here. And Ghana has so many beaches, so many beautiful beaches, so many good places, and just too dirty to swim.
Well, as we indicated earlier, Tourism Minister Catherine Afeku visited the two tourist sites earlier Wednesday to assess the extent of the problem. Correspondent Richard Kojunyako was with her. He joins us on the line. Good evening to you, Richard. Tell us what the minister saw when she went there.
Well, the minister went to the Cape Coast Castle and the Elmina Castle. Before then, she visited the Uguamahin and the Ednamahin, the traditional authorities that are there. After that, they were also accompanied by the regional minister. What she essentially saw was that there was a decline in the activities of open defecation, because what was seen in the report, a lot of people were not seen openly defecating around the castle. But the minister says that the ministry is going to employ a naming and shaming project so that they will erect some billboards, so that they will capture the images of people that are doing that. So if you see that your uncle, your mother, or your sister has been projected in that manner, to serve as a deterrent to others not to also embark on that. And apart from that, the ministry is also going to put toilet facilities, and they are going to dot them around along the coastal belt of the central region, where not only the tourists, but they want to essentially protect the beaches, the beautiful beaches that are there. And before the minister even came, the Uguamahin says that the traditional authorities were very angry with the attitude of some of the people, and so they had even started something, and they have started summoning some stakeholders, including Joy News. And so there is a meeting that is scheduled for tomorrow that they are going to fashion out a permanent solution to the problem. They want to get that thing out of the books of the people in the central, because it does not speak well of the people of Cape Coast. And so essentially, that is what Catherine Afeku and the ministry have been doing in the central region.
I know you mentioned that she engaged with the chiefs of the town. What have they been telling her with regards to, why the residents prefer to defecate openly along the shorelines rather than, at the erected KVIPs? Well,
Alba, it's become an age-old problem, and the problem did not just erupt recently. The problem has been there. People who are along the beaches, they prefer defecating openly at the beaches because, according to them, they get some funny feeling when they do it at the beaches. But Uguamahin said that attitude ought to be stopped, and so he is in touch with the regional police command. They are going to deploy some police personnel that will be stationed, permanently at the beaches. They have also requested for some 30, those disposable toilet facilities that they put when there are occasions. They're also going to put that. That was before the minister even came in. And so they have also put some red flags at the beaches to signify danger and the fact that they are very, very serious with what they are talking about. They are saying that the fight is now or never, and so they are going to team up with the tourism ministry to ensure that the fight or the battle is won.
All right, many thanks. That's a Central Regional Correspondent, Richard Kojonyako there. Now, Minority Spokesperson on Employment, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, has warned professionalism of the Ghana Armed Forces could be compromised by politicians influencing the selection process into the army. His comments follow the demand by a Member of Parliament for Asin Central, Kennedy Ejapong, threatening to make noise if he is not given a protocol quota to recruit his supporters into the army. The Ghana Armed Forces, in a reaction, has dismissed the warning, insisting its recruitment is based on merit and not on political affiliation. Colonel Agrikwashi speaks for the Ghana Armed Forces.
The advert, there is nothing like protocol. The issue is, before you get into the system, you should have qualified through. That is why we use the online system. And so, if you don't meet the criteria, there is no way you get yourself either recruited or enlisted.
But Colonel,
criteria.
But Colonel, things like protocol will not be advertised, and so definitely will not be on the phones.
I don't move into controversial statements by politicians. I would just want to be straight with that. So when politicians say things, I don't comment on them, because they have their own style, and my work does not involve statements by politicians.
Okay, but when statements like this are made definite and politicians are bold enough to say, yes, they have protocol, we need to get, some clarifications. Do politicians get people into the service?
The process that I know does not bring in people who are not qualified. If you are not qualified, it doesn't matter where you come from, you cannot get yourself into the system. So anybody who gets recruited or enlisted meets our basic requirements. That is the most important thing. Anybody who gets himself in there meets whatever we are looking for. And if the person meets whatever we are looking for, the person is a Ghanaian. And so if he gets himself to the training, yes, if you maybe extend your test, you realize that there are people who have gone to train and didn't even know any military installation. And so if you don't meet the requirements, you are out. And
so you heard the spokesperson for the Ghana Armed Forces, Colonel Aggrey Kwashie. They're speaking on Kumasi-based radio station Ultimate FM. Now, MP for Minority Spokesperson on Employment, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, however, tells Joy News that development is not in good taste, explaining the response from the Ghana Armed Forces puts them in a political battle with the MP.
I sincerely think the rebuttal by the head of public relations, public affairs of the Ghana Armed Forces was unfortunate.
Why?
For me, more importantly, is the professionalism of the Ghana Armed Forces. We have the professionalism at stake on two fronts. If there is a protocol entry into the Ghana Armed Forces, then we have a problem. That compromises the professionalism, the selection by merit, if there is. Secondly, getting serving officers directly engage politicians, whether of the ruling government or of the opposition on the airwaves, creates a professional challenge for the armed forces. And that is why we have a Ministry of Defense. I expect the Ministry of Defense to have taken this up.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumson. Still ahead, it's emerging that up to 20 people may have received contaminated injections from the Saint-Chi Hospital, from which 4 people have died. Also, management of Ghana Water Company Limited in the Yendi municipality in the northern region shuts down water treatment plant following low level of the Dakar River, where raw water is taken for production.
It's not there. There is nothing that we can do. We are just praying to God that God will help us with rain.
Details when we return. You're welcome back. Now, as part of government's commitment to sustain its Planting for Food and Jobs program, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Akoto Owusu-Afriyie, has revealed that government has decided to maintain the 50% price on fertilizer subsidies. This, he says, will cushion the farmers to increase crop yields and also pave way for more exports. My colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, has more.
The Ministry of Food and Agriculture Wednesday launched the 2018 crop season with an objective to increase crop yield while maintaining the 50% subsidies on fertilizers and seeds. The ministry revealed that the price of compound fertilizer NPK is still selling at 68 Ghana cedis per bag, whereas the price of urea is sold for 63 Ghana cedis per bag. The minister, Dr. Akoto Owusu-Afriyie, announcing the subsidy at the Nsawam Medium Security Prison, said government is willing to support public institutions to enter into commercial farming. He also acknowledged the enormous contribution of the prison service towards the successful implementation of the program.
The support that we've given to the prison service came in the form of 5 tractors and implements, fertilizers and seeds at heavily subsidized prices. And the initial year, the prison service has been our partners in trying to experiment with Planting for Food and Jobs. We know that the first year of the pilot has been a runaway success, and you have been part of it, and I congratulate you for that.
The minister also outlined mechanisms put in place to monitor the distribution of the fertilizers to participating farmers.
We've also introduced a coupon system. Last year it wasn't there, and I'm showing you samples of them, where these coupons will be distributed to the extension officers in each of the districts. Each one has a separate, each region has a separate color. This is a way of trying to monitor and control and make sure that only the farmers benefit, because there are, as you know, there are people in the system who always want to take advantage of others.
A recent research by the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana reveals that some people who are not necessarily farmers are smuggling the subsidized fertilizers for sale in other countries. For Joy News, I'm Chrissy Parker Wilson.
Meanwhile, government has expressed its readiness to vigorously fight any invasion of fall armyworm across the country. The sector minister explains the special task force set up to deal with the armyworm infestation last year is on the alert to combat any further threat.
Government is determined to support the farmers of this country. They are the ones that we need to support in order to turn the economy of this country around. It's not the oil or the gold, it's agriculture. And therefore, we are very determined that any support that we can afford for farmers, we will give it.
Finally, you are confident that the armyworm, in fact, you use the word quash. You are waiting for them and then they're going to quash them.
Oh, yes. Last year they came, we didn't have an army. Now we have an army in place and we are ready for them.
So how much are we injecting into that as well?
Oh, no, we are still doing the 10, 15 million, but it wouldn't be as expensive because this time, in terms of human capacity to control the armyworm, we've really amassed it. You know that we retained the task force which for the armyworm last year. Right. And all these months, they've been working very hard, training our own officers, training the farmers, the gangs of sprayers, doing educational programs, jingles on radios and community radios and all that. So we are far, far better prepared. Last year we were not prepared. They just hit us like a thunderbolt. But this time we are going to hit them like a thunderbolt. Absolutely.
Now, President Akufo-Addo is demanding the highest form of honesty and integrity from the judiciary. According to him, the country is at a stage in her development where respect of the judiciary is crucial in all decision-making. Addressing 5 judges of the appeals court, President Akufo-Addo urged them to be guided by the media exposure on corrupt judges in all their dealings.
To our new justices of the Court of Appeal, it is important to bear in mind the growth of our nation demands that we have a judiciary that commands the respect of the people by the nature of its delivery of justice, as well as by the comportment of its judges. It is vitally important that we have judges who are honest, possess integrity, and a sound knowledge of the law. Application of the law of the land must occur, in the words of the judicial oath, without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and therefore without recourse to the political, religious, or ethnic affiliations of any citizen of the land. When you fall foul of the law, we expect that they must be dealt with accordingly.
So the newly sworn-in judges are Justice Nicholas Charles Abe Agbevo, Alex Bochi Pokuachampong, Anthony Kwejo Yeboah, Her Ladyship Mele Efua Wood, and Ama Ebuakwa Gezi. President Akufo-Addo encouraged them to collaborate with the Office of the Special Prosecutor in prosecuting corrupt cases.
I've still not yet lived down the trauma of the excruciating shock and embarrassment of seeing officers of our courts in such compromising situations. Despite the reforms undertaken by the former Chief Justice, Georgina Wood, to restore some dignity to the judiciary and re-establish the confidence of Ghanaians in it. With the special prosecutor having been sworn into office to ensure accountability of public officials, past and present, who engage in acts of corruption and financial malfeasance, it is my expectation that you will help facilitate the work of this office.
Her Ladyship Mele Afua-Wood pledged on behalf of the judges to live beyond reproach in the discharge of their duties.
We are humbled by this honor done us and the confidence reposed in us. It is a call to higher national service, and we pledge to work diligently to the best of our abilities. We will endeavor at all times to uphold the high tenets of our office and dispense justice to all persons without fear or favor. Once again, we wish to thank you.
Now, the Wa Circuit Court has remanded into police custody 2 men suspected of armed robbery. The 2 were arrested for allegedly attacking at gunpoint an official of the Malima Company Limited in the Upper West region and made away with about 22,900 Ghana cedis. Joining his Upper West correspondent, Rafiq Salam, reports.
According to the Upper West Crime Officer of the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Hussein Musa Awenaba, a driver of a beverage distributor, Prosper Bature, accompanied by Felix Munababana, were dispatched with drinks for onward distribution to customers at Lamuse and Pina, both in the Lamuse district.
On their way back, they were able to mobilize an amount of 22,919 Ghana cedis. So on their way back, they met some 2 men. One was armed with a locally manufactured pistol. He stopped the driver. When he stopped, with the threat of the arm that they were holding, they collected the bag containing the amount and entered into the bush. They had a standby motorbike, so when they took off, the sales boy, who is called Felix, he shouted for help, and the motorbike who arrived at the scene also chased them, and he shouted for more people to help him, and they were able to get the robbers arrested. But the one holding the bag was quick enough to run away with the bag containing the money. But the rider, who is called Fatawu Amadou, was arrested.
Upon further interrogation by the police, the rider of the motorbike, Fatawu Amadou, confessed that they planned the attack with the driver of the vehicle, Prosper Bature.
And he confessed that it was the driver of the vehicle, Prosper Bature, who connived with them, gave them information about their movement, and when they got there, they planned the robbery and took the money away so that they would later share. And we got the driver also arrested. Then he also confessed that he also planned the robbery with them. So for now, they are in our custody. Now we are still looking for Vitus, who has run away with the money. We still have information of his movement that is slippery in town, and we are still on his heels.
They have been remanded into police custody by the Wa Circuit Court to appear on Friday, April 6. The Upper West Command is advising employers to, as a precautionary measure, investigate new drivers before offering them employment. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam.
And you're still watching Joy News Prime. Still ahead, we have business and economist allays fears new Ghana reference rate for calculating interest rates for commercial banks is an attempt to cap their lending rates. Emmanuel Abuajiriafi has those details.
A very good evening to you. Time now for business. And the Bank of Ghana, together with the Association of Bankers, have finally settled on 16.82% as a benchmark for calculating interest rates from this month. This means commercial banks will now require the use of the Ghana reference rate as well as a risk premium of potential borrowers to determine interest rates. The March talked about new formula for interest rate calculation is expected to bring about some transparency in determining interest rates charged by commercial banks in the country. There's more in this report.
Documents cited by Joy Business, as well as additional information from the Bank of Ghana, indicates the Ghana reference rate will be influenced by the policy rate, interbank lending rate, current treasury bills, cash reserves requirements, and cash in vault of commercial banks. This would mean the policy rate would have about 40% weighting, interbank 20%, and treasury bills 40% in calculating the new model. The Ghana reference rate is expected to replace the old mechanism of calculating interest rates. Commercial banks are no longer required to publish their base rate, but rather use the reference rate as the benchmark for determining interest rates. So from today, banks are required to price their interest rate by taking the reference rate and adding the risk premium that would be placed on its customer. This development could result in fresh borrowers getting a lower interest rate on their loans. Others have argued that it could help reduce cost of lending in the country. The Bank of Ghana, together with the banks, are expected to publish the new Ghana reference rate from the beginning of each month.
Meanwhile, economist, who is also head of economics department at the University of Ghana, Professor Peter Quartey, has allayed fears the new formula for calculating interest rates is an attempt to provide a limit for commercial banks to extend credit. After the recent implementation of the Ghana reference rate, some industry players are expressing mixed reactions. One key concern is that the new formula is an attempt to provide a limit on interest rate calculations, but according to Professor Peter Quartey, the regulator's move will go a long way to eliminate high default rates among commercial banks.
For me, the good side of it is bringing transparency in the way interest rates are determined, because you find banks hiding behind the high default rates and high cost of doing business and charging customers high rates, yet they also go ahead and post high profits at the end of each year. But this is not an attempt to cap interest rate, because Kenya did it. They were trying to cap, it didn't work, it backfired. So I don't think Ghana would do the same, but rather make the system transparent. Now, if you go to the website of the Association of Bankers, the Kenya Association of Bankers, you can key in figures. If you want to borrow a certain amount, you can, for each bank that you want to borrow from, key in your figures and it will tell you what your repayments are going to be. Clearly, I can decide that based on this information, I will borrow from Bank A or Bank B. The next step is for all the banks to put in a software or on their website or their mother association, all the banks, a formula for us to determine if I'm to borrow, this is how much, given my profile, this is how much I'll be repaying. And I think it will be good for business.
So talking about how much, 16.8% reference rate as it stands now, for you, is it good enough?
That's the base. So yes, the base is good. Then they cannot compete and decide how much risk they are adding to the base rate. So if you go look at your risk profile, if you're a small scale borrower or you're a micro enterprise and you go and borrow, your risk might be higher than if a company like Unilever or a bigger company will go. So I think it's a good reference rate.
And now away from commercial banks, now Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has indicated he would be presenting to Parliament new tax policy measures by July this year to help deal with the country's rising expenditure. The Finance Minister disclosed at the ongoing conference on moving Ghana beyond aid. The country over the years has been struggling to raise the required revenue to match its rising expenditure. But speaking at the conference, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta said he is hopeful this challenge would be addressed when he presents the mid-year review in the next 3 months.
Ghana's revenue collections are low, with limited fiscal space to support the pace of investment needed to achieve a Ghana beyond aid. Compensation of employees and interest payments alone absorb over 90% of our revenues. At the same time, the government is implementing key growth-oriented and job-enhancing flagship projects, as well as social programs in education and healthcare, which are vital to promote inclusive growth. It is essential that we mobilize more revenue in order to ensure that our priority programs are well funded. As you recall, in the 2017 budget, we were clear on a preferential option for the poor as undergirding the pace of development, and also a vibrant private sector free from coercive states. Education now is being funded more robustly. NHIS is stronger. Teachers' allowances and nurses' allowance have been reinstated. We have, therefore, begun consultations, Mr. Vice President, with key stakeholders on the need to mobilize more revenues. We intend to present to Parliament a package of tax policy measures at the time of the mid-year budget review to ensure sustained funding for our key programs.
Now, international automobile manufacturer Renault is targeting Ghana's growing low to middle income earning population with the supply of 3 range of affordable vehicles on the market. The vehicles, which were launched at the showroom of Renault in Accra today. There's more in this report.
French multinational automobile manufacturer Renault has introduced 3 affordable range of budget vehicles into the country. The aim is to offer Ghana's lower to middle income working class the opportunity to own new vehicles. All 3 vehicles under the all-new Renault Kwid have been designed to operate economically and with new technology. Jihad M. Hijazi is Chief Executive Officer of Renault.
So it's not really targeted towards, even though it's a budget vehicle, it's not targeted solely or primarily to a budget customer. Because it's a budget vehicle, it makes economic sense for organizations to patronize it. In other words, you can be an MTN, a financial giant, but enjoy what you derive from the vehicle, which is high economy in terms of purchasing price and running costs. So we are not really targeting it to a specific market. However, there is a target market, and those are the corporate organizations that have a specific requirement for this type of vehicle. And also for other individuals such as the Uber drivers or the Uber users, the other transport users, and those budget customers that we spoke about.
Head of Marketing with Renault Ghana, Sherry Madison, explained the new collection of vehicles comes in the wake of the Avid Fest for budget vehicles in the country.
Skills that our competitors have, you realize that for each category, we have the best features, but are very moderately priced. In terms of marketing, we want our customers to engage our products. We want them to have a feel of our products, get to see it, get to feel it. So we do a lot of activations and displays. The whole idea is to get people to see the product, feel it, have an encounter with it, and then make an informed decision.
The new collection of Renault Kwid is fitted with a 1-liter engine, 7-inch multimedia tablet with navigation system, Bluetooth hands-free connectivity, electric power steering among others, electric power steering among others. The price ranges from 45,000 Ghana cedis upwards.
Now, the Petroleum Commission says implementation of the revised guidelines for employment of Ghanaians in the upstream sector of the petroleum sector will safeguard local investments as well as build capacity of local entrepreneurs. The new guidelines, which were developed from the existing local content law, are expected to take effect in June this year. This came up at a localization workshop organized by the Petroleum Commission under the theme Job Creation and Human Resource Development in Ghana's Upstream Petroleum Sector. This is Ebenezer Sabute's report.
According to the Petroleum Commission, over 12,000 Ghanaians have been employed in 332 local and international oil companies in the upstream sector since the commencement of drilling of oil in commercial quantities. The figure is expected to increase with the implementation of a new guidelines which will target special areas of employment for indigenous individuals and businesses. In an interview with Joy Business, Acting Chief Executive of the Petroleum Commission, Egbert Fable Jr., said the new guidelines will enhance capacity of local players in the industry.
If you are at supervisor level and you seek to aspire to manager level, you need some amount of training, whether on the job training or external training. So those are processes that we are going to monitor seriously to ensure that Ghanaians take their rightful place in the industry. We don't seek, and let me emphasize, we don't seek to do away with investors. It is never possible. It will never be possible because the expertise they possess are very high end, but we also have Ghanaians who are well positioned to get the same expertise some even hold them already. So why can we not converge and ensure that, we train Ghanaians, we position Ghanaians to be able to take up or assume some of these roles?
So we have for you by way of Business Night. It's been great having you on board. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. Good evening.
You're welcome back. Now, it's emerging that up to 20 people may have received contaminated injection from the Senchi Hospital. So far, 5 people have been identified as victims, of which 4 are dead. Health authorities in the Sujaman district say the suspect admitted injecting between 15 to 20 people with the improvised liquid he used to mix the benzathine penicillin. Manasseh Azuriawuni is in Akosombo. He joins us with more on the emerging issues. Good evening to you, Manasseh.
Good evening, Araba.
So, how did the authorities get this information, and what more can you tell us?
Araba, what we are told is that on the 18th, when the issue came to the attention of the medical director of the DRA hospital in Akosombo, and I'm talking about Dr. Tiadalo, they had a meeting the following day, and after that, he made an attempt to get to the bottom of the matter. So he went to the new Senchi Health Center where the victims had received injection. And when he got there, he asked of the one who administered the injection, and that was when he had an encounter with Mr. James Yeboah, who administered the injection. And this man admitted that, well, he mixed this liquid. The benzathine penicillin comes in powdered form, so it had to be mixed with water or some liquid. And so he mixed and used that to inject between 15 and 20 people. But our sources around Akosombo and the St. Sujaman area are suggesting it could be more than this number. Let's listen to what Dr. Tiadalo had to say about this issue.
It was quite serious. So I called the district director of health services, informed him about what was happening, and then told him I was going to the center to halt all proceedings there until further notice. He agreed, and so I went to the new Senchi Health Center, and upon interrogation of the workers there, I got upon one Mr. Yeboah, who admitted administering the injections over a period of time to about 15 to 20 patients. He showed me a sample of the solution he was using to dilute the powder of penicillin V, but I didn't see any constituted medicines available. I asked him to withhold any more procedures, keep the solutions and the mixtures safe for forensic medicine, for forensic lab testing, and so reported back to both my director and the district director of health services in the hope that we will get the specimens for lab tests and no more patients would be involved in this very sad episode. As far as our administrative policy was concerned, that's what we did. But typically it was the surgeon and our gynecologist who were involved in the management of the patients. Normally if you have a post-injection infection, you simply go, cut the area and take out the pus and monitor with antibiotics and supportive therapy to heal. But you hear from the surgeon that these were very devastating destruction of tissues, large areas necrotic with what we thought were both fungal and microbial mixed infections. And so we tried a lot, put them on multiple wide-range antibiotics and supportive treatment. But unfortunately, out of the 3, we've lost 2 so far.
Manasseh, yesterday when we spoke to the district chief executive of the area, he informed us that they were in a meeting on this particular matter. But tell us, how have authorities been reacting to these emerging issues?
Well, Araba, I can say they are seriously working to get to the bottom of this matter. And yesterday, quite a number of people from the health sector were in a soldier mine. And we're talking about the Deputy Minister of Health. We're talking about the regional FDA. We're also talking about Ghana Health Service officials from Accra. And even today, whilst we're in Akosombo, we had to be in a meeting between the health authorities at the VRA hospital and officials from the regional FDA. So I can say they are seriously working to get to the bottom of this. And what they are saying is that if people have gone to this facility and suffered any form of injury, they should come out, because imagine that more than 5 people were injected with this suspected contaminated solution. So if any other person out there has gone to this facility and has some repercussions, they should come forward. But I can say that they are really working hard to get to the bottom of this, Araba.
And Manasseh, quickly, I'm just curious about how the locals have been receiving this information. I mean, how have they been reacting to news of the deaths and also the arrest of the hospital administrator?
Well, people are very apprehensive, especially about this facility. I must say that until we broke the story, quite a number of people in the area didn't even know about it, except for one family that has vowed never to take any of its relatives there. And I'm talking about a family that lost a son at this same facility 8 or 9 years ago. He was a 6-year-old boy, and he was given an injection, and 2 hours later he died. And there was suspicion that something went wrong, but the family said they didn't want to drag it further, so they withdrew the case from the police station and buried their son. But this family told me today that since that time they have never allowed any of their relatives to take injections there. But people are very apprehensive about the place now, and a lot of people are talking about it.
Thanks. We'll leave it here. That's Manasseh Azuri Awene there. You're still watching Joy News Prime. Up next is entertainment. And later, management of Ghana Water Company Limited in the Yendi municipality shuts down water treatment plant following low level of the Dakar River, where raw water is taken for production.
If the raw water is not there, there is nothing that we can do. We are just praying to God that God will help us with rain.
You're welcome back. The management of the Ghana Water Company Limited in the Yendi municipality in the northern region has shut down the water treatment plant in the town following low level of the Dakar River, where raw water is taken for production. The situation has led to water shortage, especially for domestic consumers and health facilities. They're now relying on water tanker services they claim are expensive. Joy News Northern Regional correspondent Hashmin Mohammed visited the raw water intake site in the town and has come through with this report.
The water intake site, Kukpeni River, a tributary of River Dakar, is at low levels, making it difficult for the strainers used by the Ghana Water Company Limited to draw enough water for production and treatment for onward distribution. This is attributed to delays in rainfall patterns in the northern region. Yendi Municipal Production Manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited, Adam Saibu, tells Joy News residents will have to endure the water shortage until the rains set in.
We are now left with 2 strainers, that is the middle one and the bottom one. Now the bottom one is always in mud because the heavy siltation of the river. Now the second strainer, in fact, we are almost restricting flow to enable the second strainer to cope up. There is nothing that we can do. because if we are going to do anything at all, we'll be risking the pumps. And we wouldn't want to risk the pumps, and when water comes, we cannot pump. If the raw water is not there, there is nothing that we can do. We are just praying to God that God will help us with rain.
Government last year, through the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, during a working visit to the Dagbon region, announced that funding has been secured to address the perennial water crisis in Yendi. The regent of Dagbon, Kampakuya Na Abdullah Yakubu Andani, wants government to fulfill this promise to end the suffering of residents of the town during dry seasons.
Every year we cannot be complaining water. It becomes boring. Something must be done about it. And I want to use this media to also appeal to the various, especially the Yendi Municipal Assembly, to see to it that people don't farm very close to the boundaries of the river, because it also causes the water, the strengthening of the river.
Hashmin Mohammed's report for Joy News.
I'm joined on the line by Ni Abi-Nicholas, who is the Ghana Water Company's Communications Officer for the Northern Sector. Many thanks for your time, Ni Abi.
Thank you very much, Araba, and let me say good evening to your cherished viewers.
So how long is this situation going to last? We understand residents are now depending on tanker services for water.
It's unfortunate we've got into this situation. It started as far back as 2014. And it all had to do with the pollution of the water body and then the human activities as far as the river body is concerned. And just like the previous interviewees have said, going forward, the River Dakar is not sustainable again as far as our operations are concerned, because it's becoming a perennial challenge we have each and every year when we are in the dry season. And so the best option for us now is to look at the River Oti. And if you may recall, someone last year, His Excellency the Vice President promised that we were going to have some $30 million funded for us to have a new treatment plant built on the River Oti, because the River Oti seems to have enough volumes of water as compared to the River Dakar, which is virtually gone as a result of the pollution and human activities. And also clearly, as been showed in the video, people farming at the banks of the river and all these sediment washing into the river. And so the River Dakar, as it stands now, it's not something we can rely on. And the long-term measure is to move to the River Oti where it has enough volumes of water. In the interim, what we've been doing since 2014 is that during such period, we have some 3 mechanized boreholes, and that's what we rely on. What we do is that we're able to get some yield from these boreholes. We treat them, and then we get the tanker services to supply most of the installations we have in Yendi. And so that's what we've been doing since 2014.
Mr. Nicholas, is this the only source of water for treatment?
No, like I said, the River Dakar is not the only source of river body for treatment. We have the River Oti, which is also very close to the Yendi township. But unfortunately, we do not have a treatment plant sited on the River Oti. We have the treatment plant sited on the River Dakar instead. And so for us, the long-term measure is to have a new treatment plant built on the River Oti. And that is the way forward. But the Dakar, now we can't rely on it.
All right, many thanks. And that's Ni Abi. He's with the Ghana Water Company Limited in the Northern Region. Moving on, Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Emmanuel Kofi-Nti, is calling on Ghanaians to support the tax identification number implementation to help the Ghana Revenue Authority to identify potential taxpayers. Mr. Kofi-Nti was speaking on Upfront.
Having tax identification number is not specifically to say you are going to pay tax. We are using it to identify potential taxpayers. Somebody can be unemployed today, but in a year's time, he may be a major employer. And so having the database of all potential taxpayers is key to the work that we do at the GRA level. And so it is necessary to have it. Okay. You talk of other alternatives.
Yeah.
But this, for me, is one of the best means to reaching out to the taxpayers and the potential taxpayers.
To be fair, if this was such a laudable idea, why not make it the one that people can choose to go for or not go for it? Why tie it to the provision of other services?
Paying tax is a civic responsibility. It is not at the leisure of the citizenry. The citizenry have to live up to their social responsibility and their civic responsibility. And the taxpayer identification is a way to reach them to live up to their both social and civic responsibility. So it's not something for a bargain.
Now, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, has called on all its members of pre-tertiary institutions to abstain from work until all arrears due them are paid in full. According to President of NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu, they have had enough of the broken promises and deceit regarding payment of arrears by government. He cautioned members not to bow to the pressure of government to get them to stay in the classroom in spite of the directive given them.
The National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, has finally declared a strike after putting on hold plans to embark on industrial action 2 months ago when government released part of the 50 million Ghana cedi arrears owed its members. NAGRAT's strike is to protest its unpaid allowances that had accumulated from 2013. NAGRAT President Angel Kabonu says they have had enough of the merry-go-round of promises and will not bow to the pressure of government to get its members to stay in the classroom.
The disquiet of our members has reached its fever pitch over the broken promises and deceit regarding the non-payment of these arrears by the government. Since coming into office, the government promised that the teacher was going to be at the center of all its educational policies, and that all arrears owed teachers will be paid. Little did we know that even the inclusion of it in the 2017 budget was only a red herring, since not even a pesewa was paid to any teacher. We note with regret that in spite of the litany of promises and numerous validation exercises and agreements signed, none of these have yielded any positive results to the benefit of the teacher.
According to Angel Kabonu, they are owed vehicle maintenance allowances, transfer grants, transport and travel allowances. All these amount to over 50 million cedis. There are also salary arrears of those who have been recruited into the Ghana Education Service. Such teachers are said to have taught for months but have not been paid. He says that none of their members must be present in any senior high school when school reopens on the 16th of April 2018.
The leadership of NAGRAT do hereby on this day, 4th of April 2018, resolve that all NAGRAT members at the pre-tertiary level should lay down their tools and abstain from work. And that when the senior high schools reopen on the 16th of April 2018, nobody should expect our members to be present.
NAGRAT has therefore urged all its members to be resolute in pursuing what is rightfully theirs. Ifo Evans Chinri for Joy News.
Well, Joy News is learning that government has indicated that it has cleared the arrears of the teachers. Mustafa Hamid, who's information minister, is quoted as saying that we have paid the teachers, so the strike is dead on arrival. Still on education, a Deputy Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Educhub, says teachers at the Ejisuman Girls Senior High School found to have made inappropriate sexual advances on students should not be allowed to teach again until their cases are finally determined. This comment comes on the back of a report released by the Special Committee investigating allegations of sexual assault against some teachers at the school. Some of the teachers are alleged to have taken students to a guest house to have sex with them. The Education Ministry, meanwhile, wants the police service Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit to lead such investigations going forward.
The students in a situation where if the allegations are true, they could be abused again. So those are things that we are looking at putting in place a better system. The ministry, of course, in partnership with the Education Service, to make sure we can be swift. I'm looking at international best practice. International best practices that I'm familiar with is that when allegations are made, it's the unit of the police that deals with these cases. It's not just the police, so to speak. The unit that has been trained to deal with specific cases like this, in my opinion, should rather be at the front so that we don't get in a situation like we are having right now of investigating ourselves. I'd rather have a third party look at what I do and tell me it's good or bad. And because these are serious allegations, seriously. I don't want a situation where a parent can trust the care of their children to us and anybody. You see, we have to train our teachers to know the seriousness of this allegation, what you do to avoid it in the first place.
Meanwhile, the National Youth Authority says it is discouraged by the lack of outreach by professional bodies like the NAT and NAGRAT in the outcome of the probe, adding it will go to all lengths to ensure the teachers found culpable are prosecuted to serve as a deterrent to others. Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Emmanuel Asigri, was speaking on the polls.
People who are involved in this act have gotten themselves involved in criminal activity, and I believe by now the police should have gotten them and put them behind bars. In other jurisdictions, the moment this matter came up, these people would have been arrested, incarcerated, and then tagged, and again profiled and put out there as sex offenders before even investigation commenced. I am calling on the police and then the IGP that this is a criminal matter. We should not let the world laugh at us. I have seen how sex offenders have been treated in other jurisdictions. It is pronounced, the little kids go to indicate that the teacher touched me inappropriately, and the next thing is for the person to be arrested by the police. The next thing after the arrest is for them to profile this person and then put this character out as a sex offender. If we don't have these things to put such people out, I think that the minimum we can do for these young people is to get these teachers behind bars. It is not a matter that should be said that some disciplinary committee should be looked into, should be put into to look at their cases. If they want, the GES wants to address it in that manner, fair enough. But for the state of Ghana, it is a criminal matter that I don't think we should gloss over, and I hope that before tomorrow morning, the police would act and then act appropriately, move in and then arrest these people and put them behind bars, because it's a complete criminal matter, and it is not a matter where it is not negotiable. If you go into a studies books, you will see what it is. The minimum for such crimes is about 7 years. So I think that we shouldn't let this be like one of the things where it happens and they say, as usual in Ghana, it is going to pass and nothing would happen. For us at National Youth Authority, with other youth development agencies, we are going to see to it that we would follow this matter to the latter, because we must use this as a deterrent for other adults who cannot control their sexual libidos and want to put it on young people. It is not something that we would want to condone at all.
Now, in many cultural settings, married women assume their husband's surname after marriage. Now, while some women find it a traditional and social status elevation, others think it's no big deal, especially in protecting the marriage institution. Joy News' Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin has been finding out more perspectives from public and religious leaders on the subject.
For many people, if the woman does not change her name, it seems to suggest she's not fully committed to the marriage. But for others, that is not the case. Should a woman take her husband's last name? Well, let's keep finding out.
For Nana Dazi and Bismarck, taking a husband's name would not change between couples.
It wouldn't increase the love, it wouldn't decrease the love. It's mutual, that's why you guys got married.
Would you change your name, your surname when you get married?
No, so I wouldn't.
Key thing about marriage is love. So if you love each other and if you understand each other, I think that's the most important thing, rather than arguing with the names, the husband's name or the female's name. It's not necessary.
Some people, however, hold the position that if a woman does not change her name for her husband's, the union is incomplete.
It's necessary. The Bible even says that, and for this reason, that is marriage, and for this reason, the man will move from the family and join together with the wife. So they are different. You are moving and I'm moving. So when you are moving and I'm moving, for the sake of the institution of marriage, it is better the lady takes on the, what do you call it, the surname of the husband.
I'll take my husband's name.
How would that change your life?
Okay, it helps everybody to know that I've married.
And so your father's name is no more necessary in your life?
Oh, it's necessary, but for other people to know that I've married, I should add my husband's name.
And what about your career? Having likely spent years building your personal brand, surely will taking your husband's name set you back?
My father gave birth to me, is that not it? And then she named me. I getting it, and they did my birth set. My name is on the birth set plus my father's name. Let's say Leketi Onkomweso or something like that. And then, so he took care of me from day one to maybe tertiary institution. You see that my school documents, everything bears my father's name. I getting it. What I'm saying is that the documents, that one you can't change it. I getting the whole scenario. I still use that one. And most people knows me by that name and knows the family I'm coming from.
And despite today's feminism wave, the practice of women taking their husband's surname upon marriage is still very strong. With increasing number of couples having children out of wedlock, will the practice serve as a form of commitment? I decided to seek biblical and Quranic answers.
Let me make
Pastor Tony Mensah of Pentecost International Worship Center at New Tafo and Muslim cleric Sheikh Mohammed Kamil Mohammed agree. They respectively indicate taking a spouse's name is enshrined neither in the Bible or Quran.
A woman taking a man's name after marriage is not or has not been explicitly stated in scriptures. It hasn't been stated in scriptures. If you went through Genesis to Revelation, you wouldn't come across a text where you find a married woman taking the name of the husband. So to begin with, that subject is not enshrined. You wouldn't see it explicitly stated in scriptures.
In the Quran, chapter 33, verse 4, Allah is saying, call them with their father's name. Call them with their father's name. If you don't know their fathers, they are your brothers. Maybe somebody has come, we don't know his father, we don't know his father's name. We don't used to give him another name. We have to call him as our brother, or sister. So I don't see why somebody will marry, a woman, then he is trying to be her father. Can you marry your daughter?
Nevertheless, Pastor Mensah finds it acceptable for a woman to assume her husband's name.
I think that one of the reasons why Western culture and our culture is reinforcing or advocating for ladies, for married women to take the names of their husband is just to reinforce the headship of the man as the head of the house.
So biblically, it is not compulsory.
You wouldn't find that in scriptures. But there are a lot of indications in scripture that God always reinforces the headship of the man, that the man is the head of the family.
Sheikh Mohammed, however, has a different view.
Allah says it's a sin. He knows what is going to, what punishment should give to the one who did that. He didn't mention the kind of punishment, but he said that it's a sin. So since it's a sin, you have to, get out from it.
Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
Well, now, Vice Chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, Collins Owusu-Amankwa, says his committee is expecting the executive to announce an increase in feeding grants for prison inmates. Currently, inmates are given 1 cedi 30 pesos a day as feeding grant, an amount that makes it impossible for them to eat a healthy diet. Speaking to Joy News, Collins Owusu-Amankwa noted that his committee will ensure the state respects the rights of prisoners. The horrible state of Ghana's prisons violates the human rights of inmates. Overcrowding, poor ventilation, poor feeding reduces the dignity of inmates. In 2014, a Human Rights Council report declared that the state of Ghana's prisons falls below international standards. Joy News' expose on the state of prisons has generated discussions on improving prisons in the country. Director General of Prisons, Patrick Dakumisa, is calling for less talk and more action in improving conditions of prisons.
We have challenges. Facility-wise. There's congestion at Nsawam, and we lack certain facilities. We lack training facilities. Even space to train the inmates is not there. So for the challenges, there are a lot across the length and breadth of the FCC. The government is looking at it, but I think from the look of things, the government alone cannot handle the issue that we have there. So I think this one should be. I think the community should be get involved, because when the inmates come out from the prison, they are coming to the society. So if the society do not take part in the management of the inmates and they come back into the society worse off, it's a society that is going to suffer.
On his part, Vice Chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, Collins Owusu-Amankwa, said his committee has engaged the executive on increasing feeding allowance for inmates and expects positive response.
It's also something we should be looking at to make sure that even we increase the capitations so that at least they will be fed with some nutritious food. It's something that we've raised it, and I'm sure the government has also come out that they will do everything possible to make sure that that particular issue is being addressed. So we're waiting for some kind of increment as far as their food, capitation is concerned, let me put it that way.
Afcontech earlier donated some CCTV cameras, printers, among other things, to the prison service. Chief Executive Officer of Afcontech, Nana Kweko Foriata, called on corporate organizations to assist security agencies in the country. And in the headlines, it's emerging that up to 20 people may have received contaminated injection from the Sinchi Hospital, from which 4 people have died. Tourism Minister warns henceforth it will name and shame persons who defecate openly at the country's tourist sites. This is in reaction to a Joy News report of open defecation at the Cape Coast Castle. In business, economists allay fears new Ghana reference rate for calculating interest rates for commercial banks is an attempt to cap their lending rates.